All right, the 2024 season is a wrap, and it's time to localize it. Lessons that you learned about the Texans from the Super Bowl and the 2024 season. It is Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. 2 weeks from now, we'll be live at the NFL Combine. Subscribe to SNL. Subscribe to our individual channels. I'll be on at 10:30 during the season. I'm pushing it back to 10 now. It's 10:30 in season because there's normally a game at like 7:30. So you want to be on after the games, but we're pushing it to 10 o'clock. So we're going 10 to 1 until the season starts. So 10 p.m. locker room stream. Okay. Let's talk about the localized Super Bowl lessons. Eagles, complete thrashing of the Kansas City Chiefs. What are some of the lessons we learned that we can bring back here to H-Town?
The big thing for me last night, the number one thing that jumps off the page is if you could dream up a DeMeco Ryans defensive performance, it's that. It's 4 guys on the defensive line, rotating them in and out, absolutely mauling an opposing offense and dominating them and not having to blitz and being able to commit 7 guys into coverage basically every play. Like that is like if DeMeco Ryans wrote down his dream performance from his defense, it's what the Eagles did last night. 4-man rush, 7 guys in coverage, confuse the hell out of the quarterback, beat him up. Doesn't matter who the other guys are. We're tougher than you. We're stronger than you. We're going to kick your ass. And that's what they tried to do a couple of different times over the course of the season. Just unleash hell with that front 4 and hope that everything you've got, including Jalen Petrie in coverage and sometimes a shaky safety in coverage, is enough. And a lot of times it worked. Sometimes it didn't. And then sometimes that front 4 wasn't getting home anywhere close to the way the Eagles did. You can't do that over the course of a season, but knowing that you have that type of performance in your back pocket as a defense, I think that's just DeMeco Ryans' dream day.
Yeah, for me, my number one lesson is that you can make your weakness a strength in one offseason as long as you have something to work with. And the Eagles were one of the worst defenses in football last year, and they were able to become the best defense in football in one offseason. And a lot of times we look at it and we say, well, you have these limitations or you have this many picks or all that. But the reality is you always have an opportunity to significantly upgrade your team, especially when you look at hindsight. Like if you went back in any draft and you just redrafted based on what happened, you can make your entire team elite. So there's always like opportunities, like if we could go back 3 years and redraft what the Texans could have done, coulda, woulda, shoulda, then you could put together a really, really good team. So there's always that opportunity. And you look at what Philadelphia's problem was last year and what they did this year. I think this is a 2-part lesson. Number one, you can extremely improve your flaws. And number 2, in a 2-year window, Philadelphia went from losing the Super Bowl after being up double digits to the Chiefs to having a somewhat disappointing season. You wondered where they were. Are they going to be able to get back to that? And they went back to where they were, and they actually took it up a step. So when we look at the Texans 2 years and we say, all right, they've kind of done the same thing, it's kind of that type of situation where you can go either way. Like if Philadelphia doesn't make a run this year, they're probably reevaluating everything. Mm-hmm. Year 3 is going to be kind of like that for the Texans. I don't think we're going to sit here and expect them to make a Super Bowl run, but it could go either way, and it's really going to depend on this offseason.
No doubt. Yeah, and fixing flaws for the Eagles, it was a variety of different things. They swapped out coaches, they added players, they trusted young guys, they benched veterans. Like they did a variety of different things to get that defense to where it was and to get it to the level that it needed to be. And then they, at different times, their offense, they kind of just hung on offense, hung on to Saquon Barkley and let him kind of carry them for a long stretch. Jalen Hurts had a little kind of an up and down season overall, but finishes really strong. Same with their wide receivers. But they hung on to Saquon and just let him kind of carry them through. So yeah, the NFL it's not, that's why it's always crazy when teams are bad for a really long time. It's not built for you to be bad for a long time. They give you every advantage to get better faster in the NFL. So if you got something wrong, you can fix it.
And I thought this was insane. And I think this just kind of puts in perspective. JJ just tweeted this out, and this is kind of nuts. JJ Watt. So the Eagles didn't blitz the Chiefs one time last night. Like, there wasn't a single time where they blitzed, and Patrick Mahomes never had time to throw. Like, no blitzes at all. We hear about, Spags is dialing it up. They did not blitz one time, and then JJ goes into, like, it's not as simple. You got to win 4-man battles, blah, blah, blah. Meathead kind of analysis by JJ. But I think that's also encouraging from a Texans point of view, because they have the tools on the outside to be that type of squad. Now, the inside, they don't necessarily have it, but they have two things that you value the most. You're not going to, in one offseason, you're not going to mirror what the Eagles have done, because their interior D-line is just insane. Like, you can't put that together, but you can do it different ways to where maybe the strength of yours, the meat and potatoes, is the edge. Because there are a lot of times you watched this game and it was like, okay, the guys on the edge are getting the sack, but I'm kind of seeing 3 Chiefs on Carter, and I'm seeing Carter get a lot of attention and kind of free it up. I think it can almost start for the outside from the Texans, but when you see that you're able to pressure with 4, it might not look the same, but the Texans have at least half of the battle and one of the extreme ways of the battle to make that happen.
And one element there that JJ talked about in that tweet is you got to have the coverage guys to get it done. And I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm thinking about the Texans secondary, and I'm like, why couldn't this Texans secondary, the corners, the safeties, like, why couldn't they be on that same level as Philadelphia here in the Super Bowl, maybe even better? Like, the best corner on Philadelphia is not as good as Derek Stingley. The second best corner on Philadelphia, Kamari Lassiter, is as good as Quinyon Mitchell right now. They need to get some, more consistency in safety. They've got to have a third corner or just a nickel guy that they trust, and they got to get a little bit of good luck with their health. But one of the big things for me jumping out of this was the Texans secondary. They're equipped to be a Super Bowl secondary if the other, if you call it 5 guys or the other 4 guys in front of them are doing their business. Like, Lassiter can cover, Stingley can cover, both those guys can tackle. They got to figure out that one safety spot next to Bullock, but you've got options. You got Jimmy Ward. Maybe there's guys you bring in that are veterans behind Jimmy Ward. Maybe you draft a guy, but this secondary for this Texans, it's a good piece to what we saw Philadelphia was able to execute yesterday.
Texan on the super chat asked, Landry, did you hit on all your bets? The Eagles, yes, except the second half. It was just like a small one. I bet on the Eagles money line second half. That Worthy touchdown kind of screwed that up. But I had the alternate line, Eagles -3.5. I had the Eagles money line. I had an Eagles Super Bowl bet at the start of the year. And then I had Eagles at half and Eagles point total over. So, yes, I thought it was going to be an assing, and I was finally right. My Kansas City Chiefs hate was finally rewarded.
Very strong with you, but it was very rewarding, as you mentioned.
Trill kicks. Now, I don't know if it evens out because the Bills kind of, but hey, I at least broke even. If I'm being honest with you people, and I do mean you people, it is SNL. Trill kick X. Appreciate you. And then he has a question on the soup as well. Smoking high grade
marijuana called Kush on the street.
And watching the 2 best to ever do it. Got to shout out my nephew. Rookie got a sack on Mahomes and won a Super Bowl his first year. Well, good for that.
Jalix Hunt.
Nice.
From Houston Baptist, now Houston Christian.
Look at that. The other thing I think that kind of like a lesson, and this isn't like a long-term lesson, and this isn't like some sort of like big nuance moving forward, but I said this right after the game. I said this before the Chiefs game, and I said it after. And this isn't like to pat myself on the back. This is more so to kick Travis Kelce while he's down. If the Texans had a serviceable nickelback, then he looks just as washed up against the Texans as he does anybody else. Like, that whole talk of, it's playoff Kelce, there's a revival. Any team with a serviceable nickelback, and the Bills and Eagles got pretty damn good ones, they make him look washed up. So you can kind of look at the Texans and the way they lost to the Chiefs. If they had a nickelback, it might have looked a little bit different. And also to kind of piggyback on this, I think we kind of saw yesterday why I would say most people, you tell me, you correct me if I'm wrong. Most people would have rather played the Chiefs from a Texans point of view than the Ravens or Bills, because I don't think the Ravens and Bills get smoked the way Kansas City did yesterday, which sounds weird because the Chiefs, they find ways to win, but I don't think those two teams get smoked like that by Philly.
I tend to agree with you on that. I tend to agree with you because nothing about the Chiefs this year was knockout. Like they weren't knocking people out more often than not. Like maybe they'd score a late knockout in a game, but they were winning, so to speak, decisions. Whereas Baltimore, they had knock you out in the first round power. The Texans experienced that Christmas. Buffalo possesses that ability. Like, you had to play really good football to take away what they could do to keep them from knocking you out. The Chiefs did that to get to the Super Bowl. And then when they couldn't do that, the Chiefs got knocked out by a better roster top to bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I've seen a better roster than Philadelphia's, if we're being honest. I know it's being said, in the chat and at the podium and stuff, that defense wins championships. Look, I'm not disagreeing that Philadelphia's defense was great, but I mean, off the top of your head, name a better running back in the league than Saquon Barkley.
I'd be lying if I told you there's somebody playing better than him right now.
Name a better offensive line than Philadelphia's.
There's not one.
They're 6'6", 240 average. That's crazy. I mean, 340 average. That's nuts. Like 6'6", too. All right, name how many tight ends, just guessing, would you say are better than Dallas Goedert?
Maybe 6.
How many wide receiver duos are better than Devontae Smith and AJ Brown?
Maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, so like, it's cool to say, yeah, defense wins championships. I mean, let's not I'm not going to sit here and say that Jalen Hurts is up there with Mahomes. He doesn't have to be, and he adds an element to where, like, seriously, in that second half, they props to Nick Sirianni, because he did not take his foot off the gas, and he really didn't put them in danger. And Jalen threw his first interception since November, and it was kind of a costly one because you thought, well, man, that could have been a 2-possession game, but it never really mattered. But like, if the Eagles have a 17-point lead in the second half and all they have to do is run the ball, you're not gonna beat them.
Well, credit to, that's the only thing Kansas City did well, is they slowed down Saquon on the ground.
Yes.
I mean, for most of the game, his longest run was 4 yards, and then he ripped off a 10-yarder, and that was about it from Saquon on the ground. So, like, that, credit to Hurts, the offense, the wide receivers, and Dallas Goedert to be like, okay, we're not going to be able to just grind these guys out on the ground. We're going to throw the ball, and that requires our quarterback to be mobile when the offensive line can't block for him, and that requires you guys to get open. And then, sure enough, that's what they did. Actually, coming out of it, you talk about the offensive line, that was another giant thing for me, is you can't build the Great Wall of Philadelphia in an offseason, but it really demonstrated how precarious the Chiefs' offensive line situation was, because, Joe Thuney got worked by big-time defensive ends in this game. The Texans did not abuse him like that in either of the game. In either of the games that they played, they did not abuse Joe Thuney like that. And that offensive line for the Chiefs, it just fell apart. 38.1% quarterback pressure rate in the game, 16 quarterback pressures. Okay, so 38 and 16. Texans season average, 37.9, 15 quarterback pressures. What Mahomes is dealing with last night is on average what CJ Stroud dealt with in 2024. You've got to be so much better on the offensive line than you were. Like, you cannot build Philadelphia in an offseason, but my God, you've got to get as far away from 2024 as possible, when one of the worst performances of the season by the Chiefs offensive line, the worst performance of the season by the Chiefs offensive line, allows their quarterback to have one of the worst games of his life. And that's what Stroud dealt with every week almost. It's like, that was mind-boggling, because I was like, no way it's going to be that close. No, it's that close.
The other thing in Beast Mode Loading says, honestly, if it wasn't for the refs, the Chiefs probably wouldn't make the playoffs. I think that's kind of extreme, but it is kind of funny that the referees were just like equally as bad. Like there was a real bad. I thought the pass interference was trash, and then there was the unsportsmanlike that was trash. But the fact that the refs were just normal, it was normal mistakes. You have guys like DeAndre Hopkins going up there and acting like they didn't get all the calls, so it was some sort of equalizer. And it's like, it's not like they barely lost; they got their ass whooped. Like the score's not even as close as the game wasn't as close as the score actually indicates either. That's what's insane about the whole thing.
Yeah, 40-22. I mean, it was really 30 something to 6. Like that's really what it was.
Capsized. I think you just kind of said this, and I think he kind of put this out at the beginning. I wanted to mark this. I think that was a good one. A bad O-line can make even the best QB look pedestrian. I think that's an excellent point, and I think Stoots just put that into statistical data.
Another thing that you mentioned Travis Kelce. Kelce wasn't like, not only did Philly make it difficult, he also wasn't good. He had the one drop. He looked slow.
He looked like fat. His face, like even his haircut, like he has like a weird fat kindergartner haircut going. Maybe that's like part of the style, like with what he's doing. I don't know. He looked off like the whole game, even in the national anthem. Like it just seemed like he was just kind of off.
He was not exuding that confidence that Travis Kelce has exuded in the past.
Yeah.
But watching him just kind of mosey around and watching Dallas Goedert put his damn foot in the ground, hit the outside, and being wide open, you can't be a zero at tight end anymore as a team. Like you got to have something out of the tight end position. The Goddard's out there giving him something. Kelce wasn't blocking. Kelce wasn't getting open. Kelce wasn't doing much. I mean, he's catching the ball and falling down when he got it. Like you can't be a zero at tight end anymore. The Texans too often were a zero or a negative at tight end throughout the course of the season.
And the thing for me was I kept anticipating this Hollywood breakout, like Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy are going to get going. That never happened. I mean, it never happened. It never seemed like him and Mahomes got on the same page. So that never happened. I will say this though, because I enjoy kicking the Chiefs while they're down. That's going to be a pretty scary duo next year if Rice is healthy. Like we've seen the Chiefs transform and be transformational. And like what we see right now is we see a washed up Travis Kelce. We see really one receiving threat, Hollywood not on the same page, but just like you can kind of like look at the Texans and say, all right, it's time to start over. I don't know that this is going to be the Chiefs squad that we look at, because I think they might completely change the way they play football with Rice on one side, Worthy on the other, and whatever the hell they decide to do in the mix too. So I don't think, there's a lot of talk about, the dynasty, it's over. I don't think we're going to recognize them next year.
They're going to be super dangerous next year. You mentioned Rice and Worthy, but they're probably going to go out there and find a left tackle, move Tooney back in there to the position he's best at guard. That's going to make them even better. They have one of the best centers in football. Yeah, they're going to lose Trey Smith to free agency probably. They've done a good job drafting and evaluating and adding guys to the equation there. So it's going to be back to fireworks in Kansas City, it feels like. Especially like Rashee Rice was awesome to start the year. He was really good. And then Worthy
and X is finding himself.
He's figured it out. He started to figure it out. That's another thing that jumped off the page to me, even in the losing effort for Kansas City, but certainly in the winning effort for Philadelphia. You have to have young guys that ball out. Like you have to have young guys, rookie contract, first year guys. Obviously, Philly's got 2 of them. But you have to have young guys ball out. Guys on that rookie contract have to be awesome. Philly's got 2 corners that are doing it. They've got 2 defensive tackles that are on the rookie deal that are doing it. Obviously, Kansas City's got Worthy. He was taking care of his business. You've got to have young guys on the rookie deal playing excellent football to be super successful in the NFL.
Yeah, like for all the hate, I think I don't want to let the hate, and this is what we always try to do. I don't want to let it like talk out of both ends, because on one hand, I'm sitting here and I'm saying Philadelphia was one of the worst defenses in the league last year. Now they're one of the best. And we're using that to kind of encourage that the Texans, whether it's the O-line, whether it's, whatever they want to fix, you'll have the opportunity to do it if you make the right decisions. Not everyone's Howie Roseman though, so I don't want to act like that's just like a normal thing, but you have the opportunity. Like there's going to be some player that if you say his name, he's going to make your team way better. Sometimes that guy goes like 3 rounds later, but it happens. So you have that chance. And you also have a decent core of players on both sides of the ball that you can kind of build around. We're talking about Kansas City, and Chris Jones looks old. That's another issue on itself. Travis Kelce looks washed. They don't have like a really good offense. I think their offense was bottom half of the league. It would not surprise me for that to be a top 5 most explosive offense next year. So I just want to, I want to make that extremely clear that it's going to be a lot different. You don't press like for all the opportunity that we're going to focus and showcase and stuff. The other teams don't press pause. No. And that's where it gets really dangerous. And that's what I'm going to talk about tonight at 10:30 is who you're chasing and who's chasing you from the Texans' point of view, because you look up and you never really look over your shoulder, but you look at what the Jags and the Colts and stuff, what they're trying to do. They probably feel they're closer to you than you do the Chiefs, the Ravens, and all the elite teams. So that's what I'm going to get into today at 10:30. Someone said Kelce looked like a GTA
San Andreas pimp. That made me laugh. Oh, Trill has a super chat. Makes me imagine how far CJ goes. I think we all wondered that over the course of the year. Like if they could just protect the guy, what's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean that's been the name of the game.
Two more for me from not only the season but also really kind of hammered home on the Super Bowl.
I think I just listed 7.
You got to have 2 wide receivers.
No, of course.
I mean, I know I'm not breaking any news here to you, and I know, and I put out this list last week on Twitter as the number 2 wide receiver for the Texans every year, and they've never had a 1,000-yard number 2 ever in the history of the franchise. And someone was like, "Well, the Chiefs when they won the Super Bowl never had 2,000-yard receivers."
Okay,
and the Patriots, when they were winning, never had. I'm like, yeah, but they had 2 dudes. Like they had 2 guys. They had guys you had to account for.
They had 2 of the 4 or 5 best tight ends of all time. Like they each had one of the best 5 tight ends to ever play the game.
Yeah.
Maybe top 3.
You got to have 2 dudes that can catch the ball as a pass catcher. And then the biggest one that all the credit to Nick Sirianni. Don't wait on a coordinator. If they ain't got it, they ain't got it. Try something else, because he did that with both his offensive and defensive coordinator last year. He fired them both. They were both one and done. He went and got Vic Fangio. He went and got Kellen Moore. They did excellent over the course of this season. So it just adds to the don't wait on Bobby to figure it out. They went and got Nick Caley to be the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans.
The other thing, and this is kind of just looking outside of like the game itself in Houston, but I guess you can kind of connect it, is they got problems in Miami. And I think it's already been kind of apparent, like the culture, like Tyreek Hill, the Manning trade did not, but like they couldn't make it work with the DC, that he just goes and completely does his thing. Like he's the worst. There's reports. He's the worst guy. He's the guy that sucks. None of the players like him. He's a POS, and God, nobody. And then all of a sudden, what happened? What happened when he left, and what happened to Miami?
No, they fell apart. They were terrible. He goes, gets a job, and there may be something. And I need to go look here. And obviously, we know the last 3. There might be something to be said for having an old hard ass on defense. Like Fangio's your defensive coordinator for the champs, Spagnuolo the previous 2 years. Like there might be something to be said for just a old hard ass as the defensive coordinator, just trying to, organize his side of the football and take care of business.
Yeah, you could say Bowles, but he was the guy for Arians, so Todd Bowles is kind of an old school hard ass too.
I guess who was the Rams had a younger DC, right?
Was it Brandon Staley?
Oh
No. He was already in LA.
Oh, Raheem Morris.
Oh yeah. He did all right. Yeah, that's right. Staley was before that.
Yeah, Staley got fired, and then and then Raheem Morris came in. They won the freaking Super Bowl.
But it is funny that you bring up the wide receivers with the AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and then all that. The other thing that I think needs to be taken into account is, and this is another lesson, the comfort discomfort balancing by the front office. And I'll explain it this way. Like CJ Stroud always talks about how good Dalton Schultz is and how much Dalton Schultz means to him and how much he means to the offense and all this. And, they seem to get along. And despite the fact that Dalton Schultz goes out there and anyone with eyes can see that he's struggling, he always gets this praise from CJ Stroud. I don't know if that's the reason why the Texans decided they had to make like a 2-year elite level investment in Dalton Schultz. But I do wonder, like, if it comes into play. And when you hear CJ talking about like Stefon Diggs or something like that, maybe you just kind of have to protect him from himself and trust that the front office is going to make the right decisions. Because in most organizations, like all the AJ Brown drama that has happened in the last 2 years, as it appeared that the Eagles were going down, they kind of handled it very well. And they handled it very well in-house. And they didn't panic. And even this year at times it felt like, okay, what's up with AJ? What's up with AJ? And they ended up figuring it out. So I think sometimes, and there were reports that maybe he and Hurts weren't on the same page and there was something about the relationship. They seem fine. Mm-hmm. So a front office can protect a quarterback from himself whenever it might appear that there's some sort of perception type of thing.
Yeah, and that comes with a lot of delicacy and a lot of taking the arrows for everybody. And I think D'Amico's tried to take the arrows for everyone sometimes, but then he's also been like, "Hey, actually, those guys played good. You should watch the film." And I'm like, I watched the 4 plays where Kenyon Green actually blocked, and then I watched the other 37, and they weren't very good. But look, and a lot of this is, some of this is time. Guys that have been around, like Kellen Moore's called plays in the NFL for years now. Like he had to learn from failure. He had to learn from it not working out at other spots. Nick Sirianni had to learn from failure. The guys on the roster had to learn from recent failure. It's obviously big time failure. I actually thought it was kind of the Jalen Hurts phone screen thing, where it's like it's him walking off the field in the Chiefs confetti from the last time they played, and that's been his phone lock screen since then. It's like, geez, that's kind of boring. You're looking at that all the time, but hey, get to change the lock screen now, Jalen.
I just want to see Jalen smile.
He
is so calm, dude.
What a unique career in football this guy's had.
It's wild because
we'll see more like it going forward because of the way football.
I don't know, dude.
Well, because college football, like some guy will be good at one place and then be good at another place too. Like it won't be like exactly like Jalen, but to be good at 2 different spots and be as good as he was at 2 different spots, and then just kind of wait around for his opportunity and then it works. That's a very weird, fun, cool career.
Yeah, it's insane because he goes to Bama, he gets benched.
Bama at its peak. He goes to Bama at its peak and plays right away.
Yeah. National champion appearance. Then he's benched. Then he's back at Bama. He's kind of like a utility guy. Then he comes in and relieves the guy that he got benched for in a SEC championship game, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Then he ends up transferring. He goes to Oklahoma, second in Heisman voting, picked in the second round, kind of mocked. Like, what's the point of this? You have Carson Wentz. Like, what are you doing? Then plays. Then probably could have won a Super Bowl. Then it appears like he's kind of in an area where everyone's just waiting for him to fail. And then he wins the Super Bowl. And now it's like almost like, oh, where do you go from here?
Yeah. You try to run that sucker back. That's what you do.
And he sets himself up to where he's almost like a victim of his expectations. Like, and that's good. That's not a bad thing to have. And I'm sure he kind of has a personality where you embrace it. But it's like when Jalen Hurts was drafted, like no one was sitting there saying, okay, well, this guy's going to go to 2 Super Bowls. This guy's going to be among the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. He's going to oversee one of the winningest teams. And we can argue about whether it's him or not. Like you can do that, but like he's going to be the quarterback for one of the winningest teams, like while he's in there. And now all of a sudden he's like 26. He's 26, right? 26, 27.
He is going to turn 27 in August.
Okay. So he's 26 years old. And now all of a sudden he has a Super Bowl. He's been to 2. The roster doesn't seem like it's going to suck anytime soon. And you're just kind of sitting there like, okay, where are we going from here? Like, is Jalen Hurts going to run off another Super Bowl and all of a sudden it's going to be like this? Is he just going to kind of dwindle off? Either way, like, if we want to readjust the expectations, we can do so. But I think before we do that, it's only fair that we acknowledge he's done more than 95% of the people that saw him drafted expected him to do. So if we move the goalposts, let's at least like give him his flowers right now and say Jalen Hurts has done pretty damn good for himself and already had a successful NFL career, no matter what talking heads like you and I do as the expectations obviously change.
No doubt. I just wonder how many teams are sitting around, maybe don't have a quarterback or don't love their quarterback situation. And they're walking down the hall to the guy that does their quarterback scouting. And they're like, hey, when you were at the Senior Bowl all those days ago in 2020,
don't do this.
Did you ask him to play running back? And then if that guy says yes, fire him and get somebody else in there.
Well,
scout their quarterbacks.
The problem is now, like, I don't think he's someone you can copy. Like, I feel like a lot of people have tried to copy.
Oh my God. People talking about Jalen Milroe today. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? They're not the same guy.
Oh my God. Like it's the Josh Allen, like Josh Allen, there's always a Josh Allen in every draft. It's crazy. There's yet to be one, but every draft there's a Josh Allen. Every draft there's a Josh Allen. Every draft there's a Lamar Jackson. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I remember like Hurts was getting like the Anthony Richardson was kind of like Hurts or Josh Allen or whatever. And it's like, man, like he did do pretty well at Oklahoma. Like he was throwing the ball pretty decently at a pretty decent level.
He led the nation in completion percentage, which would be an alternate reality for Anthony Richardson, who can't complete simple passes. And he led the nation in touchdown passes at Oklahoma. Like he was excellent in college at 2 different programs that had extremely high expectations for him. And then he got a little slept on by the NFL. The Eagles grabbed him as a just in case because they thought maybe their quarterback was about to fall apart, I guess. And bing, bang, boom.
Do you think that there's like a big change in running backs now, though? Like, do you think that because the Eagles did what they did with Saquon, do you think that maybe people start to appropriately value the running back position? Because I think so, but I don't think it's going to be like, I just think it got so out of control. Like, I felt like I was living in an alternate universe and you talk football with me daily. And whether it was on the air, whether it was, because I think off the air, I even get more pissed off about it. But like, I just felt like I was living in a weird place where like the impact that a running back can have was just completely diminished, like just minimized. Like these guys do everything. Like even if like even in pass protection and receiving and running and stuff, like there's not a lot of Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey type of backs, but if you feel like you can find that, then it's not something that you just roll your eyes at. It's right. Not in this sport.
I would tell you that Saquon's season probably made some of these running backs a few bucks in the upcoming draft. Just as deep as Genty for sure. But even some of the other guys, like as deep as this running back class is, they might have gotten pushed up a little bit because of Saquon's overall performance. And then here's the other thing too, is like, you got to have like there's going to be some team that the owner's going to watch the Super Bowl and he's going to be like, well, how come we don't have what Jeffrey has? And they're going to be like, well, we can't just go find Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. Like, okay, well, yeah, but like, let's sign one of the guys from their team that's a free agent. It's like, yes, sir. Okay, sure, we'll do that. Like
Jalen Carter, like, and that's another guy who kind of just fell in the Eagles' lap, and it was like it was one of those things where it almost felt Baltimore like, where every time someone just falls in Baltimore's lap, you're just like, shit. Like, I mean, everybody else was worried about it, and because everybody else overthought it, they get Lamar Jackson at the end of the first round. Mark Andrews, no, he's not like a popular topic right now, but he has diabetes. Boom, third round. He can't block diabetes. Boom, third round. Same draft. Orlando Brown, terrible combine. Baltimore doesn't mind. They put him in there. They end up not only developing him into a good offensive lineman, they end up getting draft equity for him. Kyle Hamilton, positional value. Boom, falls in their lap. Tyler Linderbaum, he's a center. Positional value. Boom, falls in their lap. Like, that's kind of what's happened to Philadelphia, like at times too, where it's just like they don't seem to overthink stuff, and they make other people overthink stuff. So now Lamar Jackson falls into their lap, and all of a sudden everybody's trying to find the next Lamar Jackson. So you have dumbasses like Chris Ballard drafting Anthony Richardson number 4 overall because he sees what Lamar Jackson did. When they got him at the end of the first round, they flipped him over. So it's just kind of, I think a lot of that comes with having the luxury of building a total roster like Baltimore and Philadelphia has done. But sometimes it just seems like, well, could have told you that Jalen Carter was pretty good. And there were other factors, but God.
Well, there is some Howie to some of Nick Caserio's approach, like, and some of what DeMeco Ryan seemingly has wanted, like Nolan Smith turning into a big time edge guy. It's like, oh, he's a freaky athlete that dominated college football at Georgia. We'll figure out a way to use him.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll figure out a way to use him.
Yes.
Like, oh, Cooper DeJean was a freaky athlete at Iowa that was awesome. And maybe he didn't get thrown at as much because the conference doesn't throw as some of the other conferences. We'll figure out a way to use him. Oh, we'll just start him at nickel. And, you know, it feels like draft after draft after draft. Landon Dickerson's hurt. He's not going to play for a year. That's all right. We know he's a really good player and he'll be good when he's healthy. We'll just sit on him for a year.
Yeah, it's a lot of respect for that, man. It's insane to what they've been able to do. It'll be interesting to see what the Texans can do.
They are not afraid. And it's a culture thing. It's a having options thing, but they're not afraid to just sit somebody and put their ass on the bench if they're not any good. Like, you know, you heard it last night. Brady talking about Avonte Maddox. He had that pass breakup on what was the 3rd or 4th down. And he's like, yeah, Maddox, a guy much maligned, kind of got, you know, put on the back burner this year because he wasn't playing well. It's like, yeah, because they had guys to replace him, and they had a culture that when that guy's called upon, we finally have to use him. He's going to be ready.
Another guy, and we haven't really, and I think this can be another localized lesson here on SNL. Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. Be sure to subscribe to this channel as well as our individuals. We got you covered with the Texans digital game and everything going on with it. 2 weeks from today, live at the Combine. I think you can develop, like, I think Nick Sirianni has come a long way as a coach. I think he's delegated perfectly. I think it almost seems like, I mean, they haven't really showcased it. He's not as obnoxious. Like, it does seem like there's a little more humility, which I don't think DeMeco Ryans needs to get any humility or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but I think in like a lot of ways, he's evolved, man. Like, early success, and DeMeco's had early success too. And obviously it's a lower bar, not as good of a roster, little bit more to work with, but we talk about DeMeco, evolving as a head coach is very, very important. And that's going to be something that we're going to have to keep an eye on with DeMeco, because Philadelphia last year was a massive disappointment, and they ended up bouncing back. So I think the evolution of Sirianni, very, very well done. And also, you talked about the coordinator hire the right coordinator, you can fix a lot. Obviously, you got to get the players, but Vic Fangio, Nick Caley, different backgrounds, but you can have the same impact. He's overseeing something that's very, very important. That was a big weakness for the Texans last year and prevented them from getting to where they want to go.
And even on offense, Kellen Moore, third job in 3 years. It clicked for him. Good players. He did enough. Now he's going to be a head coach.
Yeah, he was kind of showing off for his new place yesterday. That Devontae Adams was a who dat. That was who dat coach.
Yeah,
That's our
congrats.
coach.
Have fun coaching Derek Carr.
Who dat coach? He'll figure something out.
Have fun coaching Derek Carr.
Little Derek Carr action. Got to be patient with that. But yeah, those are some of the localized lessons. Really just comes down to what these guys decide. Something else that happened over the weekend that we've touched on individually, but we haven't really spoken together. The Deebo Samuel trade. Where do you sit on Deebo as a target for the Texans?
I'm out on Deebo. I just the production has dipped. He's fighting teammates on the sideline. He's tweeting about touches after a win. I'm out on Deebo.
Yeah, it is a lot. Maybe he comes into a different situation and figures it out, but it has been a lot. My case for is he's your second best running back and second best receiver immediately. Now that's before you use any assets to acquire guys via free agency or draft. So there'd be that. Maybe he's a little bit motivated in a different situation, but I can understand the pushback to both he and Cooper Kupp. The one thing though I will say is it's not an either or. Like it's not going to be an expensive trade.
Fifth rounder at most, probably.
At most, because they're trying to get rid of him. I mean, they drafted a receiver in the first round. They got another receiver who's better right now in Jennings. They just paid Ayuk. Like, there's no leverage like there. So it's not like it's going to cost a lot of draft equity. If you trade or sign wide receivers, I think you're still drafting, much like we saw with Kansas City this year, where
correct.
They signed Hollywood. They signed Juju late in the process. They drafted Worthy, and then they traded for DeAndre Hopkins because they only had one receiver that they felt good about. That receiver had some off-field issues, but he came into the season, he was good. That much like the Texans right now, their wide receiver position, one young wide receiver you feel good about, and then nothing. And every way in which you can attack the acquisition of a wide receiver, they partook in. So I don't think it's an either or. Like if you make this trade, you're not drafting, signing, or anything like that. So that's the one thing that I would just throw to the side. I get all of the discussion here. I'm not pounding the table for Deebo Samuel, but the Texans are going to be in the market for a wide receiver in every way, shape, form, no exceptions.
You got to turn over every single rock, from calling people and asking if guys are available when you don't know if they're available, to considering veterans like Deebo, to considering veterans like Kupp, to drafting guys, to every way that you could add a wide receiver. You got to think about it because you need more than just one.
DK is expensive, man. Like nobody that even like entertains the possibility of Deebo is going to say that he's better than DK Metcalf last year. DK is more expensive, and he's not just expensive trade. You're going to have to give him another deal.
Yeah.
Deebo's made the most money he's going to make playing football. Like that's it. DK Metcalf is looking to break bread. So it's more expensive. So yeah. Old receivers, stop it with the old receivers. Yeah, I get it, but they're still going to have young and old. There's probably going to be a balance.
You're going to have an old guy on this team. And he's 29 too, by the way. Like, it's not like he's 35. Like, he's 29.
He did look fat at Radio Row. That was a big.
Every player looks fat in the offseason.
Well, and he was in New Orleans.
Yeah. He's been off for a month.
You go to New Orleans, man, and you're in party mode. That's not the ideal scenario. Get you about 2 dozen oysters, fried seafood platter, probably about 4 hurricanes, 3 margs, few shots,
some beignets, some bread pudding. Next thing you know, you put on 30 pounds.
Walking back to the hotel, damn, they're open 24/7. Oh, they got gumbo. Okay, let's get some gumbo.
Yeah. Extra dark roux gumbo.
Hey, let's get some beer for the room. Hey, we got any in the room?
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, hey, let's get a 24. Okay, let's go. 24 good. All right, let's go.
You wake
Drink
up
the 24. Drink the 24. Oh, there's no last call in New Orleans. Let's go get some more. Let's go down to the lobby.
Oh, you wake up for you miss breakfast because you sleep in. It's like, oh, let's just go get lunch. It's more, po' boys, fried gator,
Bro. Breakfast in New Orleans is effed up because you'll go there and you'll be like, oh, God, I feel like crap, man. Oh, I got to get me a road beer for the walk. Oh, you drink the beer, then you sit down and you're like, okay, I'm going to eat a light breakfast. And then you like open up the menu and you're like, jambalaya omelet. What the hell is a jambalaya omelet?
Bread pudding, French toast. Okay. Fried breakfast beignet bites. Like, oh, okay.
Oh man, yeah, that's I can feel you, Debo.
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to bend over backwards to get the guy on the team, but if he ended up here, you'd figure out a way to use him.
Yeah, I just hope that there's better evaluation of offensive weapons in all shapes and sizes when it comes to this organization. I'm hoping that they tighten that up a little bit because the costliness of bad decisions is going to increase. Like you don't have that margin for error moving forward that you have with CJ. So whether it's the offensive line, which by the way, they invest more in their offensive line than the Eagles have, like just telling you. Mm-hmm. They invest similar at the tight end position. Just telling you. I'm hoping that kind of tightens up and they kind of figure that out. That's going to be really, really important. So I wonder, I can't wait to talk to Nick Caley. I still haven't gotten any email from the Texans. I'm assuming that maybe there's just not going to be a press conference and we're just going to talk to him at the combine. But
maybe
we'll figure something out.
It's a long wait. It's a long wait.
Well, they don't feel any urgency. Someone says D-Hop, Slow Fox says D-Hop is a better pickup than Debo. Definitely cheaper, but
pass.
I don't think he's as good.
Pass.
He's cooked, man. He was on the sidelines with Cal and Hannah, shook the kid's hands. He's cooked. But he's definitely going to want to try to come back. He's going to try to create some sort of buzz.
Get
ready for the DeAndre Hopkins "What's up, H-Towns?"
Don't read the DMs, Crumpler.
Yeah, there's gonna be like a what up H-Town D-Hop all the time. He's gonna try to create something.
Don't read the DMs.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Kingdom Bear. Hola, mis Corridos. I didn't want to say a bad word. Amigos. I prefer Diggs over Debo or Cup. Well, you don't have to trade for him. I mean, that's from just a player perspective. What would you rank those three? I think this is it. You don't have to trade for him. There's that. But from just a player perspective on this team, one being the best, how would you rank them?
I'd go Cup, Diggs, Debo.
I'd go Cup, Debo, Diggs. Torn ACL, man. Yeah. Torn ACL, a little bit grumpy. I feel like the Debo Cup, I feel like there's a little bit of a factor. First of all, there's more familiarity, I think. Although we don't completely know with this type of offense. I don't know. So more familiarity. Maybe a little bit more chip on the shoulder. Although I'm sure Diggs is going to be putting out workout return videos.
Sure.
And I think Debo's just got more versatility. But Cup in the slot.
Yeah, I just think for far as wide receiver stuff, like just the ins and outs of it, I think Diggs should be better. Obviously, the injury is a huge factor. Diggs should be better. So it's pretty. I would say it's pretty close between those two, and I like Cup more.
PR3 ST8N. Nick probably packing up his family and everything still. LOL. Relax.
Nick probably packing up his family and everything still. LOL.
Was he talking about Kaylee?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. He's getting everybody here.
Yeah, they always take 2 weeks to have press conferences.
It's a 30-minute commitment out of his day.
Yeah, too bad he's got to book like a Southwest flight and get here.
It's he didn't have any idea that he might be moving.
Yeah, it's not the end. Hey, it benefits.
Honey,
Hey,
I got the Texans job. Can you believe we got to get movers?
no, in all seriousness, though, in a selfish perspective, I would rather him not speak to the combine because then I'm just going to guilt him and I'm going to say, hey, you got it. Like SNL, we got it. We're here at the combine. It's your top local digital following. Like, let's just let us get him for like 10 minutes, please.
Yeah.
Let's talk to him.
Yeah.
Or the first words. Doesn't need to be a press conference. I'm fine with it. Selfishly, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Or you know what? Don't let him talk to anybody but us. You know, that'd be a good,
He's got to talk to Jonathan Alexander.
Or you know what? We'll just catch him at Prime and we'll just talk to him there. Then he can come on the show the next
What
day.
is Prime?
It's one of the steakhouses out there.
Oh, okay. That's where everybody chills.
Yeah, that's Jerry's favorite.
Jerry Jones?
Yeah. Prime is where I saw, I guess it was 2019 when I went. Sean McVay, this is pre-Mrs. McVay. Sean McVay in the corner of Prime, like 3 women on each arm over in the corner, and then people just surrounding his table. It was incredible.
What do you mean people?
Like just like other NFL people just like hanging out at his table.
Trying to talk to him?
Yeah, while he was hanging out with the ladies.
What is Caserio? He's just kind of hanging.
Saw him last year, and he had his backpack on in the bar.
Good for him, man. Good for Nick.
And had a glass of wine, I think.
Good for him. Good for Nick.
It was making the rounds, chopping it up with everybody.
Good for him. Good for Nick.
It's like it's always kind of like some teams don't send as many people as they used to the combine. Caserio is one of the I like the interviews. I hate the workout stuff. But it is always fun to kind of see like the split of like, do you go with the old school steakhouse, the St. Elmo's, the familiar one, like Prime's kind of sort of the new one. I was there one night, the 49ers had rented out the top floor. They were having a grand old time.
Okay. All right. Derek says he heard fake Nick Cayley is going on 610. Okay. All right. On that note.
Yeah, we'll know what everybody looks like when the combine gets here too.
Yeah. Subscribe, like, ride along. Let us know if we missed any localized lessons from the big game or the season as a whole. Locker room, 10 o'clock when there's no games. I don't like streaming during games, like 10, so 7:30, there's sometimes some kicks. 10 o'clock starting tonight. Join me. We'll talk about this year versus next year. We'll get ready for stuff. 2 weeks till the NFL Combine. We're pumped. We're excited. There's a lot of opportunity. Sucks that there's no football. We're going to have to live without it for a while. But we'll be talking about it throughout. And the draft is going to be here before we know it. And then camp and everything else. And there's going to be no lags in content or anything else individually or right here on SNL. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.